What we're going to start today is the chapter Time, Value and Money. Is the chapter Time, Value and Money. If I talk about the importance of the chapter, the entire maths itself is a 40 marks. And if I talk about the last 3 attempts, in 14, this single chapter was of 14 marks. Prior to that, there was 13, then there was 10, then there was 7 also. But only 1 year it was 7. Rest all the years it have been more than 10 or 10 greater than that. It's never less than 10. And you don't have any theory in it. Hardly ever you have a question of 1 or 2. Rest you always have sums. Now, the entire chapter is divided into 2 categories. First is the SI and CI questions, and the second part is your annuity question. Again, in CI, SI and CI, first we'll be attending the question that is pure SI, simple interest, pure CI, and then the mixture of CI and SI, like differences given for 2 years, for 3 years. If simple interest is this much, compound is this much, what will be the principal? Every single thing of that sort. Then we will move on to annuity. Now, in annuity also, first you have a basic like present value, future value question. And then we have the questions of the varieties of annuity, like annuity regular, annuity due, present value, future value, 4 formulas. And then we move on to certain specific questions and concepts. The first is if if I have a property, if I am selling it, I'm selling it for 5 lakhs. And if I'm renting it, for example, I'm renting it for 25,000 for a period of 5 years. So whether I should rent it or not, that decision. Then you have a question of perpetuity. Perpetuity, we have questions of like if it normal basic present value perpetuity annuity. And we also have a growth rate also. Then we have questions for net present value, future inflows and outflows of a machine. Then whether you should purchase a machinery, whether you should purchase an asset or not. And whenever you're purchasing an asset, we talk about sinking fund. So what is that concept? So all these things. And the last is bonds. We also need to do a couple of questions of that section also. Here. So these are the different categories of question that we'll be ending up with. So I'm going to first start with the theory portion. First, we'll complete SI and CI theory. We'll do the sums of it. Then we'll complete the concept of annuity. We'll do the sums of it. And then the questions as I encounter, I'll explain you the concept of the smaller, like inflow, outflow, perpetuity, sinking fund. All those theory questions I'll explain you as I give the question. Because those are not broader concepts, those are two questions each. What my entire PPT is going to contain are questions that is either very important for this year, I think, from your module, or the question that have been there in the papers in the recent times, or the question that I'm thinking that this year you will have. Either they are already in the mock test papers or they are predicted to be there in this year's paper. These are the questions we will be doing today. So I have around 70-75 questions in the entire chapter, only one chapter, minus the calculation part. I am not giving you any question where you only need to calculate. So I hope you all have watched the calculation video properly. सबको आता है? हाँ? अच्छे से? Okay. Everyone is familiar, I guess, with that part. So I'm counting on that because when I'm doing the sums, I'm not going to teach you the calculation parts. But that is not my job today. Clear? Okay. We'll start with the concept of SI and CI. Please write with me. Simple interest and compound interest. Simple interest means the interest remains the same for each year. And in simple interest, there is no concept like half yearly, quarterly, semi-annually, monthly. There is only one concept, annually. So if you're given a monthly interest, multiply it by 12 to make it an annual interest. Okay. In simple interest, there is no concept as monthly or quarterly or half yearly. Even if you have been given a quarterly interest or you're given a half yearly interest rate, multiply to make it the yearly figure. And then follow the sum. Clear? Now, what is the difference between SI and CI? Now, in SI, the interest remains the same for each consecutive year. But in CI, the interest changes because we apply the interest even on the interest of the first year. So we have for the first year SI and CI is same. But from the second year, The interest will not only on the principal, but the interest will also be calculated on the interest of the first year when I'm calculating it for the second year. When I'm calculating the compound interest for the third year, I'm going to impose the interest on the principal as well as the interest that I have got in the previous years, in the previous installments. Clear? First, basic simple interest formula. What's the formula? PRT upon 100. So amount is principal plus SI. Now, if you look at it, SI is P plus PRT by 100. That means directly I can say amount will be P 1 plus RT by 100. Now, this particular formula will become very handful when we'll be doing certain variety of question. It will become very handy. Done? We need to remember both the formulas. Simple interest, PRT by 100, amount is principal plus interest. Also the fact that this particular formula that I've just written, amount in case of simple interest is P into 1 plus RT by 100. You're not going to derive it, you need to remember it. Because in the questions where I tell you that the amount is this much, principal was this much, rate is this much, directly find the time. You're not going to form an equation and then derive it. So much time we don't have, neither do we have the space. Clear? Then compound interest. First, we have the formula amount is equal to P 1 plus I to the power n, where P is the sum of money principal which is lent out. I is how much? R upon 100. N is the number of times you are getting the interest in one total period of duration. Now, if it is half yearly, for example, my interest rate is 12%. If I'm calculating it annually, my compounding value will be, if I'm calculating it annually at 12%, what is my compounding value? 1.12. If I'm calculating it half yearly, first 12% first 12% becomes 6%. We make half. And then 6% compounding value will be 1.06. How we do that? 6%, 6 by 100 plus 1. Clear? 12% quarterly. First we divide it by 4 to make it into the quarter, that is 3%. Then the compounding value will be 1.03. In 1 year, annual interest is only once. Then, yeah. Second, if you have half yearly or semi-annually, then in 1 year, how many interest amounts? 2. So the power will be twice. Then if it is quarterly, in 1 year, how many? 4. If it is monthly, well, clear? So if I'm saying 3 years, then annual interest, how many durations? 3. Half yearly, 6. Quarterly, 12. Monthly, 36. Clear? Clear? So the power is always the number of times you're charging the interest. I is always a rate in decimal format. 1 plus I is the compounding value. P is the sum of money or the principal that is lent out. And A is the amount that you get. Clear? Now, if I want to find out compound interest, how will I do that? How will I get compound interest? Amount minus principal. Again, will form a formula. P common 1 plus I power n minus 1 directly. This will give you compounding value. If it is a normal sum, you need to find the amount and then compound interest. You don't need any formula. You have the principal, you have the rate, you have the time. Find amount, then subtract the principal. Very basic. But in the question where there is a missing figure, it becomes real easy. For example, I tell you the rate is 10%, the time is 3 years, the compound interest is 332 rupees. What will be the principal? In that case, rather than forming the equation, we'll directly use this formula in order to obtain the principal amount. Clear? So the two formulas that are derived today, first for this SI, amount is P into 1 plus RT by 100. And then here for compound interest, P into 1 plus I power n minus 1. Both the formulas will only be applied in case of any missing figure, not for a normal general question. Clear? Done. Now, in case of compound interest, if the interest rate changes for subsequent years, for example, for the first year 2%, for the second year 3%, for the fourth year 4%, then in that case, if it changes every year, then the amount will be P 1 plus I1 first compounding value, 1 plus I2, 1 plus I3, and so on. So if I tell you that the principal is, for example, 100, And for the first year, I'm calculating at 6% half yearly. For the second year, I'm calculating at 2% annually. Please listen to the question. The principal is rupees 100. For the first year, I'm calculating at 6% half yearly. And for the second year, I'm calculating at 5% annually. So what will I do? 100 into 6% half yearly, that is 1.03 to the power 2. 1 year, 2 installments. For the second year, it's 5%. 1.05. So directly we can have how much? Triple 1.3945. That will be my amount. If I want the compound interest, I'll subtract 100 and it will be 11.394. Clear? Understood? So the first formula is if the interest remains the same for throughout the transactional period, and if it changes for every single year, then we'll be using the below formula. Whether it's half yearly, quarterly, we'll make the adjustments accordingly. Understood? Any doubts? Clear? Next, if the question is in this format, effective rate of interest. Okay, before that, if I tell you about, see, in case of interest, the amount keeps on increasing because I've given someone a loan and I'm going to get interest on it. So when he returns me the money, my money increases and I get an additional value for it. But if I'm talking about like a machinery that I've been using for a couple of years and I purchased it for 1 lakh, right? Then if I'm reselling it after 3 years, am I going to get more money or less money? Less. So the amount is getting depreciated. In that case, instead of 1 plus sign, it will become 1 minus sign. So for depreciation amount, that is scrap value. Scrap value is the amount that you get after selling a machinery or an asset after using it for a couple of years. This will be P into 1 minus I to the power N. Clear? Done? Then effective rate of interest. When do we use the concept of effective rate of interest? For example, if I have a half yearly rate or a quarterly rate and I want to find an equivalent annual rate. So if I tell you I have a 4% half yearly rate. So this will give you an interest calculated twice within the same year. Rather than making payments twice a year, I want to make a single equivalent sum of payment at the end of the year. So 4% half yearly will be equivalent to a certain percentage calculated annually. So the annual equivalent of 4% half yearly is known as equivalent effective rate of interest. So this concept is only valid for half yearly, quarterly and monthly and is only valid for a duration of 1 year. So while calculating effective rate of interest, what do? We find out the compounding value first. Clear? Raised to the power number of times you're charging. Then I subtract 1 because I'm doing the entire sum considering my principal to be 1. No matter actually whatever the principal. It doesn't matter to. I'm only bothered with what is my rate and what is the time duration. Again, the time duration will only be 1. Done? So this will give me my interest amount. And then if I multiply it by 100, I'm going to get the decimal amount. So for example, if I tell you that I have one company, one bank is giving me an annual interest of 3.9% if I invest in it. And one has given me 3.8% but calculated half yearly. So which bank should I go for? Whether I should invest in the bank that is giving me an interest of 3.9% annually, or I should invest in the bank that is giving me 3.8% calculated half yearly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out 3.8% effective rate of interest. If it is more than 3.9, I'm going to go with the half yearly. Okay? And if it is less than that, I'm going to go with the annual one. So 3.8% half yearly is equivalent to how much? So 3.8 will be divided by 2. 1.9% for one interest duration. Divided by 100 is I plus 1 is my compounding value. 1.019. हाँ ना? मिला है सबको? वापस बोलना है? The entire yearly rate is 3.8. But since I'm calculating it half yearly, I'm going to divide it by 2 for one half yearly. 1.9. Then I'm going to divide. This is my rate. Then I'm going to divide it by 100 to convert it into decimal. And I'm going to add 1 to it to make it into amount. Done. How many times in 1 year? Twice, because 1 year, 2 half yearlies. This is my amount that I've got in my calculator. I'm going to subtract 1. That's my compound interest. I'm going to multiply it by 100. That's my effective rate, which is 3.8361, which is less than which is more than 3.8%. 3.8 था ना? क्या था? If it is 3.8 annually, then I should go with 3.83 effective rate. And if it was 3.9, then I should not go with the half yearly one. I should go with the annual 3.9, whatever it is. And my effective rate of interest is 3.8K. If it is more than the, then go with the half yearly, this 3.8 effective rate of interest. And if it is less than the given annual rate, then go with the annual plan. The bank that is giving you more annual rate. Understood? Clear? Now here the point of view was the person who was taking the loan. If the point of view would have been you are giving the loan. So whether you should give at 3.9% annually or you should give at 3.8% quarterly. In that case, I'll want to have a more interest in return. So whichever is more while after converting it into annual rate, after converting into effective rate, that will be taken. So if I am taking the loan, I want lesser rate. If I am giving the loan, I want more rate. Clear? Done? Everyone? Rishabh? हो गया यहाँ तक सबका? Now what I'm going to write is all the tricks that we have talked till now. Clear?
मैम
Yeah.
एक बार इफेक्टिव रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट का एक और एग्जांपल करवा दीजिए ना.
If I'm giving you 5% quarterly, what is the effective rate of interest? Divide 5 by 4 first. That is your 1 quarter interest. Divide it by 100 to convert it into decimal. Then add 1. Multiply it 4 times because in 1 year, you have 4 interest durations. Then subtract 1 to get the compound interest. Then multiply with 100. What's the answer?
5.094.
First dividing it by 4, then by 100, then adding 1 to get compounding value, 1 year, 4 times installment, subtracting 1 to get the compound interest, and into 100 to convert it into your percentage format. So it's 5.09% annual. Clear? Mila? Done? Tricks. First one. Simple interest doubles in simple interest doubles in 100 by years. Guys, leave 2 to 3 page after I'm done with the tricks. Sums you do it in one continuation, tricks you write in one continuation. So that is easier for you to revise later on. Okay, so once I'm done with this and I'm going to move on to the sums part, leave 2 to 3 pages. So that you leave some space when I'll be teaching you the tricks and the formulas of the annuity. Clear? So simple interest doubles in 100 by 3 years, triples in next compound interest doubles in 72 by R years, triples in 114 upon R years. Third, if the difference between SI and CI is given for a period of 2 years, for a period of 2 years. In that case, principal will be T into 100 square upon R square. And if the same thing is given for a period of 3 years, for a period of 3 years, then the principal will be D into 100 cube upon R square, R plus 300. Anamika. Done. Fifth, if a sum of money deposited in a bank becomes A1, that is amount 1, in T1 years and A2 in T2 years, then the amount deposited initially, that means the principal amount deposited initially is crisscross A1 into T2 minus A2 into T1 upon the same way as you have subtracted the time above, T2 minus T1. If you would have written A2 into T1 minus A1 into T2, I would have subtracted T1 minus T2. Done? Sixth, if sum of money becomes n times in T years, if sum of money becomes n times in T years, becomes n times in T years, then it will become m times. It will become m times in m minus 1 upon n minus 1 into t. The required times will be above, the given time will be below. These concepts are both under SI, not for CI. Both the concepts are for simple interest, not compound. Done? Guys, done? We'll move on to the sum. Start. We can directly do this. 3,500 into 3 into 12%. 1260? Yes, no. Simple
Yes, ma'am.
interest directly 3,500 into 3 into 12%. 1260. Done. The sum required to earn a monthly interest. The interest is monthly, remember, but we never have a monthly interest system here. So what will be our annual interest? Into 12? That is my annual interest. Principal is P. Rate is 18. Time 1 year divided by 100. Calculate. How much? 80,000. Done. कोई दिक्कत? Sure. Everyone. Now here you directly have amount. Use that formula. What was the formula? Amount is equal to principal into 1 plus RT upon 100. Use this formula, you will directly have your answer. No X required. We already have amount. We need principal. 1 plus 8 into 6 upon 100. So you calculate the bracket part first, save it into M plus, and then 370 divided by MRC equal. How much? Everyone got the answer? हाँ ना, कैलकुलेटर में निकला है? सच बताओ. So 250. Done? Don't need a common sense. P becomes 2P in 10. For one more addition of P, it will need how many more years? More 10 years. So it's going to take how much total? 20 years. And still you want to use the formula? So 100 by R. That's the double formula. That is 10. So rate is 10. Then triple is 200 by R. That is 200 upon 10. That is 20 years. Clear? Yes? Formula? Check because there is none of the option also. Check if the rate is correct or not using anyone. So we had the formula principal 6,200 into 3 minus 7,400 into 2 upon 3 minus 2. This is 3,800. Just for confirmation, 6,200 is the amount, 3,800 is the rate. So the interest is 2,400 into principal 3,800 into rate into time 2 upon 100. Check. Is the rate 31.57? This should have been. Is the rate 31.57? The rate should have been 31.57. ठीक है? Clear? है ना? Guys, I can't see everyone's copy. Is it okay with everyone? Start. No answers yet. So simple interest. See, A sum of rupees 46,875 was lent out. So this is what? Principal? Yes or no? So this is our principal. Lent out is simple interest fine. And at the end of 1 year, 8 months. 1 year, 8 months means how do we convert it into year? Divide 8 by 12 in your calculator and add 1. 1.666, that is 1.67. Okay, you can do that or you can do it in the fractional part also. Done? So my time is 1.67 years, for example. And if you want to do it in fraction, 1 8 by 12, 3 ones are 3 plus 2, 5 by 3 years. Now the total amount was 50,000. If principal is 46,875, my amount is 50,000. What is my SI? What will be my simple interest? 50,000 minus 46,875. That is, my simple interest is 3125. When the principal is 46,875, time 5 by 3 years, rate R upon 100. Calculate R. If you Google 1.67, you get, I guess, 3.9 something. So the nearest one is 4% anyway. No. Understood? Yes or no? So my rate will be 4%. Clear? Everyone clear? Online?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Next. What was the formula? 100 by R. So 100 by 12.5. 8 years. Done? Very good question. User rate. Question is two equal sums were lent out. And here the total sum lent out is given. Go for trial and error. So if I take my first option 4,000, if it is invested equally in two different sections, that means how much am I investing? 2,000 and 2,000. So for the first 2,000, the interest rate is 7%. The time period is how much? 4 years. Find out the interest. Then again for 2,000, find out the interest for 4 years for the interest rate 5%. If they're both adding up, gets you 960. Then 4,000 is your answer. Otherwise, move to the second option. So 4,000, that is half 2,000. At 7% for 4 years. The interest is 560. Save this. M plus, then calculate it again for 2,000 at 5% for 4 years. 400. And now if you add the 2, how much do you get? 960. The total interest is 960, which was given in the question. That means that A is the correct option. Not necessarily, but in this case, you have got A as the correct option. Again, if I would have taken 3,000, for example, then it will be divided into two parts, 1,500 and 1,500. Apply 7% interest here for 4 years. Again, apply 5% interest at 4 years. If after adding you get 960, then 3,000 is your answer, otherwise no. Understood? Excellent. If you don't want to use trial and error, what you can do is, suppose I'm investing X rupees, X rupees. So the first one at X, I'm applying 7% for 4 years. Second, again X, I'm applying 5% for 4 years. And after adding it up, I'm getting 960. So this is X into 7 by 25 plus 5X by 25, 960. This is 12X by 25 equals to 960. If you calculate this, you are getting 2,000. That means you are investing in both of them 2,000, 2,000. So what is the total sum? 4,000. You can do in either way. ठीक है एवरीवन? एनी डाउट्स? इसमें निकला? वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन, extremely good question. It will be really nice if you can give the answer. What do you mean by tenfold? 10 times. No? First. First read the first scenario. A sum of money gets doubled in 5 years at X%. What was the formula for double? Double was 100 by R. R is rate. Rate here is X. And what is the duration? 5. So what is our X here? 20%. Yes? Yeah. Next, they tell you that it becomes 10 times. If it becomes 10 times, now my amount will be 10 times of the principal. That means, you know. So what will be my simple interest? 90. Yes, no. So 9p will be equal to p into rate is y, time is 30 years. Y comes out to be, y comes out to be 30%. So what is the difference between y and x? 10%. Same case. Now you can also use a common sense. If it becomes a double in 5 years, it will become increase it in the same pattern with simple interest. It increases the same way every single time. Yes or no? Understood? Try that. Is it okay? Now, if you forget the formula, always go for the basic clear formula. That will always give you an answer. In 2 more steps, but it will always give you an answer. So we have no formula for 10 times. And we don't remember any logic. Apply the normal basic simple interest formula. Clear? Done? Everyone? So our answer is difference is 10. Done? Yeah, Varsh. Try. Okay, the equation is missing. X square minus 11x plus 30. Equation is missing here. This is the equation. Yeah. Here you need good maths. You need to know midterm. You have been given the principle, no doubt about it. Now, what else we need for simple interest? We need time and rate. So that has been said that time and rate are the solutions of this equation. So if I solve this, since it's a quadratic equation, I'm going to get two values of x. One will be rate, one will be time. Who will be what? I have no information and I don't even need it. Because in simple interest, we multiply all of them. So whether rate is something and time is something or the other way around, you're multiplying the same pattern. So it doesn't matter to us. So first we are going to solve this equation. Here it's 1, 30 into 1, 30, which can be written as 1 into 30, 2 into 15, 3 into 10, or 5 into 6. Before 30, there is a plus sign. So after adding the factors, you should get 11. So not 11, not 11, not 11. Yes. That means 11 should be written as 5x and 6x. Taking x common here. Taking minus 6 common here. X minus 6. X minus 5. So I have two values of x, one 6 and the other 5. One is rate, one is time. Doesn't matter which one is which. So simple interest, 2000 into rate and time divided by 100. That is 600. If you don't remember this, you can use the formula also. Or you can go for trial and error also. Since your constant is 30, what are the numbers that divide 30? 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Go for trial and error. Put 1 if it gives you 0 or not. For that you can use calculator. Put 2 if it gives you 0 or not. Put 3 if it gives you 0 or not. So the two numbers that gives you 0, those are your answers. So go for trial and error rather if you don't know mid. Understood what I just said? You have the constant 30. Whatever numbers divide 30, go for trial and error in this particular equation. Whichever gives you 0, those are your factors. क्या तुम नहीं समझा रहे? हाँ, otherwise you can. Here what they said is, in finding out simple interest, what we need is P into R into T by 100. So we need the product of rate and time. What was the formula for product of the roots? T by A. So here directly you can find out product of the roots 30 by 130. You don't even need to solve it. So product of the roots is 30. So principal is 2000 into 30 upon 100. Very good. Clear? Very. So 3 years, 3 months. 3 months means 3 by 12.25 plus 3, 3.25. So the interest is 42,800. Principal is missing. 3.25, rate is 2.5 upon 100. Crisscross, you'll get your principal. Remember to clear your calculator if you use MRC. So your principal is 526,769.23. Nearest B. Done? मिल गया? What is given to us? This is our principal and this is amount. So we can use the formula for amount. Amount was equal to P into 1 plus RT upon 100. Use this formula and find T. 85925, 70,000. You could have subtracted also. The rate is 6.5. Time is missing. What's the time? 3.5 years. You could have also done in this way. If you would have subtracted amount and principal, you would have got your interest. 15925. Principal is 70,000 into time. Rate is 6.5. Time is missing. In that case also, you could have done time as 3.5. Anyway, now. Yes, Dhruv? Everyone okay? Too many P's. Simple interest P. Principal, I'm not gonna take P. Time P. Rate P upon 100. 1 P gets cancelled. So my principal is 100 by P. Yes, done. Very important question for this year. Body language seems very easy question. Don't say an answer. Let everyone think. Just give a minute. You can say me an answer. Options wrong. Options are wrong. Wrong. All the options are wrong. Options are wrong here. Ah, all the options are wrong. Yes, sir. So the simple interest on a certain sum would be this much. So simple interest is
Is it
one.
12.5?
Yeah, it's 1.05, 1.25.
1.25, sorry.
Yeah. So its simple interest is 0.125 times principal. This is equal to P into rate into time divided by 100. P gets cancelled. Calculate 0.125 into 100 upon 10. So time is 1.25 years. And if it would have been months, then it would be 1 year. And now multiply 0.25 into 12. You will get your months. 3 months. If the option would have been months, just multiply the decimal part with 12. Yes? Hana,
Yes, ma'am.
can I move forward? Any problem? Understand the language first. What is given and what do you need to find? Interest is here. Time is here. 15250 is what?
Amount.
How do I know? Because all the options are smaller than that. All the options are smaller than 15250. So it has to be smaller. That means it is principal. So we have to find principal and what is given to us is a larger value. That's amount. Understood? If you don't understand it directly, look at your option. All the options are smaller than 15250. That means 15250 is the amount. What you need to find is the principal. Clear? So 15250 is amount. Principal into 1 plus R into P, 7 upon 100. First calculate the bracket. 7.5 into 7 divided by 100 plus 1. Save this in M plus. Then write 15250 divided by MRC equal. Principal is 10,000. Very nice. Done. मिल रहा है या नहीं मिल रहा आंसर? कुछ लोग का तो मुझे देख के हमको लग नहीं रहा है. हीरो खूब बन रहा है. Giving up a very good face. The last question of essay. And the most easiest one indeed. Monthly interest is 1200. So the yearly will be 1200 into 12. The interest is 1200 into 12. Then principal 80,000 time 1 year. Rate missing. How much? Option D. Done. One more essay question was there. I guess it will come later on. Very important one. I guess it was. Okay. It will come in one of the features later. Okay, coming. Now we'll start with CA. First, very basic question. So here, if we look at it, the option that is different for everyone, only calculate that. There is no such option. So calculate the first two, which are the most easiest one. Calculate only annually and semi-annually. Whatever matches, that's your answer, because the first two options are not same in any one of them together. The first option is same in two, the second is same in two, but they both together are not same in any one of them. So first find the annual, find the semi-annually, and see which option fits it. B and C have the same option. You have to find quarterly. D and C have first two options, three options same. It shouldn't have been. I guess it's wrong here.
मैम आप म्यूट है.
First divide 10 by 12 for monthly rate. Then divide it by 100 to convert it into decimal. Add 1 for the compounding value. How many years? 2 years. So in 2 years, how many installments? 24 installments. Multiply it by 2000. How much do you get? 24. Which is 2440.78, right? So that means option C is the correct answer. Yes? Done? Done? What have they asked you? After 3 years, he will get. That means what? Amount, not CI. They have asked you amount. Annual, so directly compounding value is 1.05, 3 times into 8,000. 9261. फिर हो रहा है. आगे वाला. हो गया. Everyone done? नया बच्चा? Try. कैसे इतना जल्दी? 25,000. For the first year, the rate is 4%, compounding value will be 1.04. For the second year, the rate is 5%, compounding value 1.05. So 25,000 into 1.04 into 1.05. 27,300. Done. Compounding value 1.08 for 2 years, multiplying it by the principal. 1 quarterly, then 8% becomes 2%, and 2 years is 8 installment. One 1,716.59. Different satisfaction when you get exact answer. Done. Research calculator से करना क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है आपके? See, you in your question, you will never be given a variety number of years or a percentage that goes beyond your calculator because you have a limitation on the number of digits in the calculators. So they never give you that. So if you notice, they rarely give you monthly, and if they give you monthly, they give you very high because not anyone anything that cannot be calculated in this particular calculator they don't give. And if it is so, they'll give you the value given in this. They always provide you with that. Try. Directly first compounded semi-annually. So 8% becomes 4%. 1.04 time 1 year, so 2 times. Multiplying it by 50,000 and then subtracting 50,000. Yes? 4080. Done? Everyone done? Yeah. Done? So we have been given compound interest. Principal is missing. Use this formula 1 plus I power n minus 1. So here the compounding value will be annually. So 1.05 to the power 2. Yes. So first calculate 1.05 to the power 2 minus 1. Save it. Then divide 3280 by that. 32,000. Anyone who was not able to calculate it without using a pen? In the translation. We had the formula. Compound interest is what? Amount minus principal. What was the formula for amount? P into 1 plus I power n. Taking P common. 1 plus I power n minus 1. And this is given to us as 3280. So 3280 is principal compounding value 1.05 for 2 years. So I first calculated the bracket, saved it in my calculator by M plus, then 3280 divided by MRC equal to the mean P. Both the P's are on the base. Sorry. P कॉमन लिया ना दोनों में मेरे पास है नहीं खबर लो Dan, what the answer? Nominal is your normal. क्या चलो एक्सरसाइज effective rate of interest 7% quarterly. First divide 7 by 12 for first divide 7 by 4 for quarterly rate, then by 100 for decimal. Add 1. In 1 year, effective rate of interest is always for 1 year, even if it would not have been mentioned. So 1 year, 4 installments, minus 1 for the interest, into 100 for percentage. You didn't get the answer. Jutta. Try. Very good question. Extremely good question. Hmm? First, lend out at a nominal rate of 4.5% per annum compounded quarterly. First, find the effective rate of interest. So 4.5 upon 4 divided by 100 plus 1 to the power 4 minus 1 into 100. What we get is 4.576. So earlier it was 4.5%. Now it is 4.57%. So there is a gain of 0.076. First, we find out for the quarterly effective rate of interest. Had I been using 4.5 annually, and now when I'm using it quarterly, my earlier annual rate was 4.5. Now when I'm doing an effective rate of interest of the quarterly term, I got 4.576, which is higher than 4.5. How much higher? 0.076. Understood? Answer is C. What the answer? Now the tricks and a little not so obvious questions. Depreciation. So 10 lakh 1 minus 10% for 10 years. Option A, 10 बार. Be right. It's all on your confidence. If you have confidence that your method is right, it gives you the similar. If you doubt every single time while pressing your key, then no point, whatever method you got the answer. Sourcing. The values that you have been given is higher or lower than the given value in the question. That means you have to subtract. You have to find the prince amount first. The slab is depreciating at 10%. That means the value will decrease. So the value that you have been asked to find in the options are smaller or larger. Smaller. That means you have to find the amount. If they would have been larger, they would have found you the initial value. Look at your options always. Done. Okay. Suppose it says that initial population is missing. The initial population is already missing. So they have said that if you increase the population every single time by 2%, 2%, you need to stop at that time after 10 years or 12 years or 100 years. When your population has become 40% more than whatever you started with. So we don't know what I started with. So I'm taking my initial population to be 1. If my initial population is 1, so after a couple of years, I want it to increase by 40%. So increase 1 by 40%. What is that? 1 plus 4, 40% of 1. How much is that? 1.4? Okay, wow. That means I want my population from 1 to become 1.4. I'm just not sure in how many years it's going to be. Understood this much? And my initial population is missing. Why am I taking it 1? So that I don't need to multiply a principal later. That's the only reason. You can do it by 100 also. No issues. You can do it by 1 lakh also. So I'm taking 1 rupee. 1 is my population. So I want this 1 population to increase by 40%. So after increasing by 40%, it becomes 1.4. So I want to know by applying 2% increase every single year, how much time will it take for my population to become from 1 to 1.4? That means 1.4 is what? My amount. My principal is 1. I'm not writing that. My compounding value is 1.02 to the power n. So now in your calculator, multiply 1.02 and keep on having a count. As soon as you land near 1.4, tell me how many times you multiply. At 16, you got 1.37. At 17, you are getting 1.4002. That is very almost close to 1.4. That means your n will be 17 years. Understood? You could have done the same sum by 100 population, 200 population, anything. Doesn't matter. Just if you would have been taking 100, the equation would have been 140, 100 into 1.02 power n. Before starting the trial and error, bring the 100 on the left hand side, 1.4. Because you won't be multiplying every single time 100 and checking it out. So leave everything to the left hand side, only keep the power on the right hand side. Done? Any doubts? Have a concentrate. Very good question. Now I'll get a few of the guesswork. Start. #21. Rest of you? Nothing works. Use the basic formula. Why do we need to find a high-fi formula? Use the basic compound interest formula, you'll have an answer. हाँ, एकदम. Any answers other than them? No. Okay, first, a sum of money invested of a compounded double itself in 4 years. So if my initial principal is P, the initial principal is 1, for example, it becomes 2 in how many years? I'm not sure about the time interest, right? Yes. Now I want how much? 32. Yes or no? That means my principal from 1 should become how much? 32. So here I want 32. Yes. 32 means 2 raised to the power 5. If left hand side is raised to the power 5, raise right hand side also to the power 5. So 32 is 1 plus I to the power 20. That means in 20 years, it's going to become 32. Approximate. Nearest is 20. Understood? Everyone, any doubts? Shravya? The trick. Apply. What was the formula? What was the formula? D into 100 cube upon R square R plus 300. Apply. How much? So 110.16 into 100 cube. R square is 36. R plus 6. 300 is 306. That is 10,000. I'm not going to show you how to use calculator now. That's all you have to do now. Everyone got the answer? Rishabh? Ashraf? Correct. निकला इतना देर से क्या कर रहा था क्यों तो ट्रायल नहीं है First for 1200 at 20% find the difference between SI and CI and then for 15 find the difference between SI and CI. Which one is your answer? Anyone who hasn't got the answer? And B. What you have done is compound interest at 15 minus simple interest at 50. If the difference is 60, that's your answer. Or you could have done this difference formula. Difference is 60, D into 100 square upon R square. That was principal, sir. Principal is equals to difference into this. Try 1220 if it satisfies, try 1520 if it satisfies. Whichever satisfies, that's our answer. Done? Compound interest on a certain sum for 2 years at 4% is 102. Compound interest is 102. Principal 1.04 to the power 2 minus 1. From here, we got the principal to be 1250. Now, at this principal, find the simple interest for 2 years. 1250 for 2 years at 4%. This is rupees 100. Option C. Calculation. Guys, they are calculators. Still, you're making mistakes with calculation. How stupid of you. In an exam, you won't get a second chance. Do it once and do it correct. Everyone got the answer? Please start. Read the question very carefully. Oh, this one is easy. Welcome. एक calculative guess. थोड़ा सा ऐसा कुछ टाइम नहीं है तो first calculate how much you're getting, then makes these जय माता दी. Done. Amount is 550. Principal missing. For the first year 9%, so 1.09. Second year 6%, 1.06. Third year 3%, 1.03. All were annual. So divide, you will have your answer 462.16. Done. There's formula. What's the formula? Difference into 100 square upon r square. What's the answer? 8,400. You have only 3 numbers to enter in calculator. What do you do then? After a couple of minutes, you're still pressing something in the calculator. There are only 3 numbers that you have to punch. Still now I can hear the sound cut. God knows what you type. Well, find the effective rate of interest for 9%. 9 by 4 divided by 100 plus 1 to the power 4 minus 1 into 100. That is 9.30%, which is higher than 9.1% any day. Even if you have got 9.1, still compound interest is high automatically. 9.1 CI and 9.1 SI, which one is higher? C. Effective? Then no. Here दिया नहीं तो मैं एक साथ ले. Done. For 1 year, same. Both will be same for 1 year. नहीं, both will be same for 1. How should I do it? Everyone knows it. It's in book. So all have the answers of the book. So no questions asked there. How should I do? या फिर होंगे. Now per 1,000. That was 3.9 in the book. So first 39.4 is the birth rate, 19.4 is the death rate, that is 20. But this is per 1,000. So my rate won't be 20% right now. So for 1,000 it's 20. For 100 it will be 2. Yes or no? That means your rate is 2%. The rate is 2%. If I go for 72 by 2, I get 36 years. The nearest is 35. This is an approximated formula. If you use the actual compound interest formula, you get 35 point something. That's why. The nearest one भी mark. इतना सा difference के लिए we won't go for another. नहीं. The birth rate is 39.4 and the death rate is 19.4. So what is the rate at which the population is increasing? 20. But for every 1,000 people. So if for every 1,000 people you are getting an increase of 20. So for every 100 you are getting an increase of 2. So your rate will be 2%, no? Because in 100 the percentage is calculated. So my rate is 2%. And how much time you need it to be doubled? Doubled is 72 by 36, but in exam you'll always mark 35. It's a common learned question. Reason them. In practical, there is no SI. Not at all. For that, they tell you always that it is SI. Otherwise, we never have SI. So this one is nice. Read the question very carefully. You're calculating the compound interest on that 10,000. So 10,000 will be how much? What? Principal. ये बोला ना. So principal 10,000. Everything is calculated half yearly. For the first and second year both, the rate is 6%. But 6% is annually. Half yearly will be 3%. Compounding value 1.03 for 2 years. So how many installments? 4. For the third year, it's 9%. So this will be 1.045 twice. Half yearly. Calculate. Got the answer? Everyone? Oh, it's a repeat question. Answer 10. Theory. You take into consideration the interest conversion period. We do take into consideration, but principle it doesn't matter because you always calculate effective rate of interest for 1 rupee. Yes. Very good question. This is the question I was talking about. Try. Answer. Sure. Rest of you, what happened? You're using one calculator. खुशी आयुष कहाँ है? क्यों? एग्जाम एक साथ देगा? Okay, first, I'm not sure about the principal. I'm sure about the principal. 1500. Time 3 years. No clue about the rate. Again, 1500. Time is 3 years. Rate is different. The difference between the simple interest is 18 rupees. 45 common. R1 minus R2 is 18. R1 minus R2 is 18 by 45. 0.5. You cannot have a trial and error here. You haven't given a difference value. You need no neither. Not possible with trial and error. Done. Simple interest. Then I told you about simple interest. The principal remains the same. The time remains the same. What is changing is the rate in both the cases. So assuming the first rate to be R1, calculating the simple interest. Assuming the second rate of interest to be R2 and calculating the simple interest. The difference between them is 18. So we needed to calculate R1 minus R. Yeah. Why 45? Reason being, मैं सोचा नहीं हूँ. Done. Everyone done. So that's it for CI and SF. Now we'll start annuity theory. Now before starting annuity, the same concept that I have a principal at R% for n years calculated as compound interest. I'm getting the amount A. So what is the formula? P into 1 plus I to the power n. Yes. So now this P is the principal. That's money that I'm lending out today. And after a couple of years, for the same amount, I'm going to get a return amount of A. So rather than writing this, I can also write that the future value is equal to present value into 1 plus I upon n. Sometimes instead of amount and principal, they use the word present value and future value. Means the same thing. That I'm investing a sum of rupees 1500 today at 2% per annum for 3 years. then how much amount will I get in the future? So the terms that they are using is future value and present value. But the meaning is again amount and principal itself. How do I know that it is not an annuity question and it is a normal question? There will be no terms as I'm investing this every month. I'm investing this every year. I'm investing this in every quarter or again and again. Something like that will give you a hint that it is being repeated again and again. And if it is only one time investment, that means it's the same formula. So if you have a future value, present value question, you also have this formula when you don't have an annuity in consideration. Clear? So sometimes they'll give you the present value and ask you how much will you get after a couple of years. Or sometimes they'll tell you that after 10 years you're getting this, how much was the money that you invested on that particular movement. So backwards or forwards. If you're moving forward, multiply by the compounding value. If you're moving backward, divide by the compounding value. So if it is future value, this is the formula we are starting with. And if I want to find present value, I'm going to divide it. Clear? Yes, no?
Yes.
Then next annuity. What was annuity? Equal amount in equal interval of equal installment in equal interval of time. That was annuity. Now again in annuity, if you are lending out something today like a loan amount, that is always present value. Loan is always present value. And if you're getting something in the future, that is future value. Now the annuity is always denoted by capital R. And if you're making the annuity installment, the first installment after the end of 1 month, that is annuity regular. Clear? And if you're making the payment right now, like opening a bank account, then that is annuity due. Clear? If nothing is mentioned, it is annuity regular or ordinary annuity. If annuity due will be a case, it will always be mentioned either by the word annuity due or they'll tell you that I'm making the payment now. If any one of those things are said, that means you have a question of annuity due or immediate annuity in your hand. And if nothing is mentioned, or it is said that you are making the payment at the end of the year or the end of the month or whatever is the case, then it is a question of ordinary annuity or annuity regular. Here, so now we have 4 formulas for future value and present value. If in the question they directly tell you find this, do not question whether it makes sense or not. Find that using the formula. Doesn't matter. If by reading the question you imagine that it should have been future value, but later on in the last line they tell you find the present value, find the present value, whether it is contrary to what was the explanation given in the question earlier. Clear? Understood? Right now. Annuity. Heading annuity. First, ordinary or regular. We have annuity due or immediate annuity. We have 2 formulas for future value in both the cases, for present value in both the cases. First formula, R into 1 plus I upon N minus 1 upon I. And for annuity due, just multiply one more factor. Present value. Since we are going backwards, we are going to divide R 1 minus 1 plus I to the power minus N I. And for annuity due, we are going to multiply it by one more factor and reduce the power by 1. Remember, the power is reduced by 1. Note the power. The power in the last column is n minus 1. So if you have the compounding here for 5 years, I'm going to only write the power 4 minus 4. Done? Done? Clear? Now we have the concept of sinking fund. Now, what is sinking fund? Sinking fund is used if you have a particular asset or a big payment coming later in the future and you already know about it. For example, if I want to buy a machinery later on in my life, which I know will be costing around, suppose, 50 lakhs. Okay? I already know that much I need in the later on after 10 years for a certain project. So I'm going to start investing from today so that after 10 years, I get an entire amount of rupees 50 lakhs and one go. But when will I get this 50 lakhs? After 10 years. So this sinking fund will always be future value. And if I want to get a return, I'm going to go to the bank or some lender. So I'm going to make my first installment when? As soon as I meet the person, as soon as I want my installment to start. So I have to make the payment. In sinking fund, it is always going to be ordinary. It is like taking a loan. Clear? So whenever you have an asset buy, or you're saying that for this particular machinery, later on I'll be needing 10,000 rupees or 12,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees, the question will always be future value, ordinary annuity, fixed. No questions. Doesn't changes with the question. That means we'll always use the formula R 1 plus I upon N minus 1 upon I. Always it's fixed. Done? Everyone done till now? Okay. So these are all the normal concepts that we have. So let's do a couple of sums from these first. What do you mean? Can we start? The question is for future value, present value. No annuity involved. You invest rupees 3,000 in 2-year investment that pays you 12%. Calculate the future value. They've asked you to calculate future value, but nowhere the word annuity or making equal payment is mentioned. That means it is a normal question of future value and present value. Clear? So formula future value, present value into 1 plus I to the power n. Yes? Answer 3763.2. Understood the question? Nowhere was in the question it was mentioned that you are making equal investment or you are making equal payment or there is an annuity involved. So it is a normal basic question of future value, present value. That means amount principle. Clear? Done? Annuity is here. So find the future value of annuity of rupees 1,000. That means 1,000 is R made annually for 7 years and at an interest of this. So we have to find future value. Use the first formula. R 1 plus I. That will be 1.14 to the power n minus 1 divided by I. 0.14. Be very careful. Don't divide it by 1.14. It's 0.14. So on your calculator, first calculate 1.14 7 times. Subtract 1, divide by 0.14 and multiply it by 1,000. 10730.49. The nearest one is 8. Any doubts? Any doubts? Can I move forward? Raju invests rupees 20,000 every year in a deposit scheme. So this 20,000 every year, that means it's annuity. From today, that means annuity due. Here, for next 12 years, assuming the interest rate to be 7% compounded annually, we need to find future value. Directly they've said. So future value formula, annuity due formula. R compounding value 1.07 power 12 minus 1 upon I. And because of annuity due, there is one extra factor 1 plus I. So 1.07 will be multiplied at the end. Got the answer? 38212.85. The nearest one is B. Yes, the nearest is B. Any problem? From today, आज से शुरू कर दिया. Annuity due is when you're making the payment right now. Annuity regular is when you're making the payment at the end of the first installment. If it is annually after 1 year, that will be the time I'm going to pay you for the first time, like a loan. I've already took the loan today. The first installment will be paid after 1 year, right? I'm going to return you the first amount after 1 year, not right now when you're giving me the loan. But if I open an RD account, I need to make the first payment right now to the bank so that you can start my account. So this was from today. From today is annuity due. Okay? Everyone clear with it? Any doubts? See, you can see that there is a word highlighted. That means it's a question of future value of ordinary annuity. Final. The company wants to replace its existing tool room machine at the end of 10 years. So number of period is 10. And the expected cost is 10 lakh. When? After 10 years. So this 10 lakh is how much? After 10 years, how much am I needed? Yes? So my future value is 10 lakh. How much provision needs to be made out of revenue each year? I need to find annuity. It's annually, so 1.1 to the power 10 minus 1 upon 0.1. Calculate the bracket, save it in the calculator as M plus, then divide 10 lakh by that. R is 62745.39. Yes? So the nearest one is C. Any doubts? Clear? Everyone? Try. I have never given you the values, huh? Every year the questions with the values were given, but since you have to use your calculators, use it. I'm not going to provide you with the values. Find the present value of rupees 1 lakh to be required after 5 years if the interest is this one. Any annuity mentioned? So it's a basic case of future value, present value. So for 1 lakh, I need to find the present value when the interest is 1.09 for 5 years. So present value is 1 lakh divided by that, which is 64993.13, which is nearest to this. Yes? Any doubt? Any doubt, guys? Loan is always present value, ordinary annuity. So 2500 is R, N. So we have to find present value. So R, 1 minus 1.14 to the power minus 10 upon 0.14. How much? 13,040.28. Yes. So option B is the nearest value. Yeah. Everyone is getting these answers in your calculator. Kaushik, पता नहीं है. One. Clear किया. आया बनू. 45. Loan against ordinary annuity. Present value 1 lakh. R is missing. 1 minus 1.08 to the power minus 5 upon 0.08. So R is 25045.64. Okay. Yes. Right. That mother decides to give him 50,000 everywhere starting from today. This is annuity and starting from today, that means it is annuity due. From today for the next 5 years, fine. Govinda deposits this amount in a bank as and when he receives and gets 10% per annum interest rate, compounded annually. So the question looks like it was about to ask me the future value. But later on, the turned around is asking me the present value. So it is a question of present value annuity due. So it will be present value is 50,000 into 1 minus 1.1 to the power minus 4. 1 year less by 0.1 plus 50,000. 208,493.2. 208,493.2. B. Got the answer? Yes, no.
Yes, ma'am.
Recording in progress.
Correct. ये तो बेसिक है.
Ma'am, how many questions are there in total?
Around 75, 70 somewhere. Precisely 72. There are 72 questions. So why bought motorbike costing 80,000 by making down payment of 30? So from 80, we have already made a down payment of 30. So that means the loan amount is 50. Making annual payment for 4 years. How much would be each payment? That means you have to find annuity. So my loan amount is 80. That means it's ordinary annuity. 1 point compounded annually. So 1 minus 1.14 to the power minus 4 divided by 0.14. So R is 17160.23. Option A. Sorry. Loan amount was 50. 80,000 was the total cost, but we already made a down payment of 30. So the loan amount was only 50. Done. What is amount of an annuity? Future value. Amount of an annuity means another word just to say future value. Which formula will we apply? Future value. Annuity due. It's written very clearly. Due. So future value, annuity due. So we are given the future value 10,000. R we have to find 1 point compounding value is 1.08 to the power 15 minus 1 upon 0.08 into 1.08. R is 341.01. See, got the answer? तो स्क्रीन नहीं दिख रहा स्क्रीन नहीं दिख रहा तो ये नहीं दिख रहा डन go for trial and error. It will be much quicker. So Paul borrows rupees 20,000 on condition to repay it with a compound interest at 5% in annual installment of 2,000. So this 20,000 is the loan amount. Repaying it by an installment of 2,000. 1 minus annual. So 1.05. In how many years? So minus 10 upon 0.05. Yes? Yes? So 2,000 you 2,000 you move it to that side. That is 10. Now go for trial and error and see which option gives you the nearest value to 10. Go for trial and error. You can also simplify a little bit more if you want to, but doing trial and error at this stage is enough. Try and see which one gives you a nearer answer. Because if I go for this, I'm getting 7.72. This gives me 8.86. This is 9.89. This is 10.37. So which one is closer? C. Done? Everyone done? They have done this in the class itself. It's in the book itself. You have it learned. A person invests rupees 5,000 at the end. So annuity regular, which pays interest at 10% compounded annually. The amount standing to his credit 1 year after he has made the yearly installment for the 12th time. So first we are calculating the future value after I have made a 12 investments. So for future value after 12 investments, installments I made, 1.1 to the power 12 minus 1 upon 0.1. This is how much? 10692.14. So had I took out my money at that point of time, I would have got this much. But I said to the bank that whatever project was about to be starting right now, it's going to take 1 more year. So you keep this amount again. I cannot make any more annuity in now because I already made a promise that I'm only going to make installments of 12 periods. So now I'm going to just give the bank at a normal interest rate and keep it for 1 more year. And then I'm going to take it back after 1 year. So at this amount, 10692.14 is going to stay with the bank at a nominal rate. Nothing else is given. So at the same rate, 10% for 1 year. So normal compound interest, if I apply here 10%, how much? 11761.3. Understood? You are allowed to make 12 installments, but after the 12th installment, you did not take out the money. You did not cash out your check. What you did is you kept the money for 1 more year with the bank, for which you got a normal compound interest for a period of 1 year. And then you took it out after a period of 1 year. So what was the amount that you got? Clear? Everyone? Doubt? Any doubts? So what we are going to do is now talking about the loan, whether the owner or a person who is giving a space on rent, whether he should sell it or he should rent it. Which one is more favorable? So, for example, please note down the theory points. Lessor. Lessor is the owner of an asset who gives the space on rent. Who gives the space on rent. Who gives the space on rent. And lessee is the user of the asset who takes the asset on rent. Who takes the asset on rent. So if the point of view of lessor is important, for example, I have an asset with me. Okay? I can sell it for 4 lakh right now. Or I'm deciding or whether I should put it up on rent at 25,000 per, let's say for every 6 months, and now calculate for a period of 10 years. So after 10 years, how much accumulator amount I'm going to get? That is no use to me. So I'm going to find the present value of that. Clear? So for 25,000 rent, I'm going to find out the accumulated amount today, present value for whatever duration it was mentioned in the question. If I am the owner of the asset, so while selling it, I'm getting 4 lakh and I'm renting it out, for example, say for 25,000 and for 6 years. So if in return, the present value accumulated today is more than 4 lakh, then I'm going to give it on rent because it is giving me more money. And if it comes out to be less than 4 lakh, then I'm going to do what? I'm going to sell my property. Clear? If I'm lessee, I have an either opportunity. For example, let's talk about this institution. We had two opportunities, either to buy it out or to rent it out. So by buying, supposingly, I had to bear the cost of 1 crore 30 lakhs. But if I'm renting it for a minimum of say 4 years, that is huge for us. We don't stay at one place for so many years. So for 1 year, for example, and we are paying a rent of 2 lakhs. 1 lakh, for example. And now I calculate for 4 years, if I calculate whether it's feasible for me or not. Clear? I'll minus all my fixed costs, all my every cost that I had need in constructing. And then I find it out that whether it is feasible for me or not. If I'm buying the place at 1 crore and if I'm renting it out, but again my rent I won't calculate for later on in the future. I'm going to calculate it for today. That if I'm paying a rent of rupees 1 lakh and some thousand for a period of 4 years every month, then the accumulated amount today, if it is more than 1 crore, then I'm going to buy the property because it's more feasible for me. But if it comes out to be way less than 1 crore, then why will I have the why will I spend so much money in one go and buy out a place when I'm getting it at a lesser price on rent? Yeah. So the point of view matters. If you're talking about the lessor who is giving up his own space for rent, or you're talking about lessee who is buying up someone's place or for ownership or renting out someone's place to live or use. Clear? Everyone? Okay. Now, always in lease, renters will be using present value. Always. Lease rentals will be using present value. Should I move on to the sum? Yes? Please try. Lesser, I am the owner of the place. And either I have to make a decision whether I should rent out my place or I should sell my place. For example, the owner of this building, he was making a decision on whether I get more money if I sell it right now, accumulated amount, or if I give it on rent, I'm going to get more. So he calculated and he find out that if I sell it right now, I'm getting a sum of together 1 crore. But if I put it up on rent at 1 lakh rupees every month, then the accumulated amount for 4 years is more than 1 crore. Then why should I sell it for less? I'd rather put it up on rent and get more accumulated amount. Yeah. But if I would have been the one who's taking up the place, then I would have preferred what? To buy it out because it was costing me less. Yeah. A company is considering proposal of purchasing a machine either by making full payment of rupees 4,000. So if I buy the machinery right now, my cost is 4,000. But if I think of renting it out at an annual rate of 1250 for a period of 4 years. So if for 1250, the accumulated amount for 4 years today, the present value, it comes out to be more than 4,000, then it is much convenient for us to buy it out. It is costing me less. But if my accumulated rent, when I'm calculating it today, for a period of 4 years, is coming out to be more than 4, is coming out to be less than 4,000, then I should go for leasing it out. Yeah, I'm the one who is either needs to buy the machinery or I need to rent the machinery. So if my money is going out from my pocket, I want to pay less. So whatever costs me less, I'm going to do that. If I would have been the owner of the machine, what I would prefer, I should get more. Agree? So always think of the point of view. Here, who am I? I'm trying to purchase the machinery. I'm trying to use the product, not sell the product. Yeah, I want less. I want less money to go out from my pocket. So what I'm going to find is present value of 1250 at 14% for 4 years. Yes? Yes? So calculate 1 minus 1.14 to the power minus 4 divided by 0.14. That is the formula, which is 3642.14. Yes? When this is less than 4,000, it is costing me less. So what should I do? Leasing is preferable. It's easier to rent out than to buy because it's costing me more if I buy the machinery. Here, done. Everyone clear? Any doubts? You all had a lot of doubts for this lecture lesson. Any doubts right now? Always think who is lesser, who owns the property, who is lessing, who is renting, who is taking the property on rent. Clear? So lesser wants more money, lessee wants less money. Clear? Be very careful with the words. See, C and D cannot be answered. For sure. Your answer is either A or B. The cost of the machine is 5 lakh. Now let us see that if we rent it out, then how much does it cost us? So 51272 is the rent amount. 1 minus 1.1 to the power minus 10 upon 0.1. This is 315044.2. This way less than 5 lakh. So it is easier to go for rent. So if it is lesser, it is the favor of lessee. It is in the favor of lessee. To whom is the agreement favorable? Agreement means to renting. So which person is getting benefited by the agreement? Which person is getting benefited by the rent? Let's see, because it is costing him less. Clear? Agreed? If they would have asked you what is not favorable, who is not getting favored by the agreement, it would have been the lesser. He would have been benefited if he would have sold the machine. Clear? Try. Okay, let's read the question. I'm the company. I want to lease out an asset costing rupees. The cost of the asset, machine or whatever, is 3 lakh and 60,000. I am the company. That's right. I am the company. My asset cost rupees 3 lakh and 60,000. Clear? If I sell it, I'm getting 3 lakh 60,000 for 5-year period. Done. Now I need to find out whether I should sell at 3,000, 3 lakh 60,000 or I should rent it out at 1 lakh 5,000 for a period of 5 years. Clear? So first let me find out the present one. 1 lakh 5,000. 1 minus 1.14 to the power minus 5 upon 0.14. So this is 360473.5. Yes? Easy. This is greater than 3 lakh 60,000. That means it is favorable for the company to give it upon rent. Yes. Now let's read what the question's last line is meaning. Because it will depend upon that line whether I should write yes or no. Because in the options, it is not asked whether renting is favorable or selling is favorable. If that would have been the line, then renting out is more favorable. Yes? Now, is the agreement means the rent agreement. Is the agreement favorable to the company? Is the rent agreement favorable to the company? Yes. Agreement is always for the rent. Clear? Whenever they say agreement, that means they're talking about the renting agreement. Clear? Yes, no. So renting, is it favorable to the company? Yes, it is favorable to the company. Clear? Done? Now, wait. Now, when we have the questions of machines, there are again two types. Now, this one can be treated as like the same. Whether it should be purchased or not, it should be lent out or not. A machine should only be, listen to me first. A machine should only be purchased if it is either giving you an additional cost in the future or it is reducing your already fixed cost that you are incurring. For example, we bring a staff. It should either give some monetary benefit to us, right? If you are bringing a teacher, for example, it should either increase our revenue, right? Or in our case, it should decrease our workload. If you are, for example, we have so much of Xerox going on. So now we are making a decision whether or not we should have a Xerox machine. So if I have a Xerox machine, I need a Xerox person. So there is a cost. So I calculate the cost of the Xerox machine. Now I'm going to calculate what is my total cost that I'm making up for the entire year on my Xerox. If the cost of the machine is less than that, then I'm going to purchase the machine because it is reducing my already incurring cost. And if the cost of the machine is more or even equal in my case, then I will not go for buying the machine. It's easier to give it up outside. Okay? So whenever we are new, we need to decide whether or not we should buy an asset or not. In our case, we should purchase a machine or not. We have to decide whether it reduces our cost by an amount and which I'm spending on the machine. Here it is said that I can buy the machine for 50,000. So if it either increases my revenue by more than 50,000 or it reduces already my incurring fixed cost by 50,000, then I'll buy the machinery. Otherwise, I'm not going to buy the machinery. Agree? So here it is contributing. That means it is adding on. So if I find it again, present value, because cost of the machine is for today. So again, I'm going to calculate my benefits for today. If the accumulated benefits for today is more than 50,000, then I should buy the machine. And if it is less than 50,000, I should not buy the machine. Understood? Clear? I know. So the cost is already mentioned 50,000, 12,000. This is present value again. 1 minus 1.10 to the power minus 5 upon 0.10, which is 45489.44. So it is giving me a total benefit which is less than 50,000. So why should I bear the cost of purchasing that machine? It is costing me way more rather than the amount that it is going to earn it, right? The machine will cost me 50,000, but it is only going to give me a revenue of 45,000 something. So I'm already at a loss. So I'm not going to buy this machinery. Clear? Understood? Thank you so much. आपके लिए इतना ideal situation कभी नहीं है. अगर ऐसा आया, then anyone. Both of them can be true. Where you buy, that's neutral. You don't buy, it's neutral. Should not be purchased. Clear? Yes, no.
मैम एक बार वापस समझा दीजिए ना.
We found out that what is the total benefit of I'm incurring, I'm going to get from the machine today for the period of 5 years. So I found out for 12,000 the present value, which was this. But it is going to give me a revenue of this when I'm already spending an amount of 50,000 on buying it. So it is going to give me a revenue which is less than the amount that I'm going to spend on it. So why should I buy?
Okay, ma'am. So in the question, it was contributing. So we are considering in case of revenue.
It's going to increase my revenue.
Okay.
Now, in the second question I was about to start, it is going to reduce my revenue. So there are two different machines. First one, I have to pay up from my pocket 10,000 and it is reducing something. And the second machine, it is costing me 8,000 and it is reducing something. Which one should I go for? There are two types of machine. First machine is costing 10,000 and it is reducing my expense by 1,900 annually for a period of 5 years at 10%. Yes. And the second machine which I'm thinking is going to cost me 8,000. And that machine is going to reduce my cost by 2,200 annually. Same rate, same time period. So which machine should I buy? The first one or the second one? Need to calculate anything. The second one's cost is lower and it is reducing my more cost. So if it would have been the other way around, The first machine is costing 8,000 and is reducing by 1,900, and the second is costing 10,000 and is reducing by 2,200. Then I would have even gone to the making a hard work and effort to calculate that whatever is their present value. Whichever present value is more, I'm going to buy that. Agree? But here, everything is more for the second machine. It is already costing me less than the first machine, and it is reducing my cost more than the first machine. Why should I even think of buying the first machine? Agreed? So this question is not even need to be solved. क्या अलग है? क्या है साथ होगा? Oh, my fault. Sorry. The life is so different. So calculate for both of them. My fault. So for 7 years, you calculate 1,900 at the rate of 10% present value. And again, for 5 years, you calculate 2,200 for a period at the rate of 10%. 1,900. Second one is 2,200. कितना? 9,249.99. And the second one, 8,339.73. Which one? The first one, I'm going to bear a cost of 10,000 and I'm getting 9,249. The second one, I'm going to bear the cost of 8,000. I'm getting more than that. Second one. The first one from my pocket, 10,000 is going. And in the second case, from my pocket, only 8,000 is going. So which one is better? The second one. Understood? Done? Now the questions of bond. Now here, please read the question first. Very different way of doing it. You need to understand the method. Every single sum will be done in the same way. Read the question. Okay. Now, what is bond or debenture? Supposingly, the companies, which are public companies, need some money. So they take it as a loan from somewhere, from the public, for example. And in return, they are going to give them a paper. That is a bond or the debenture on which there is a face value, mark value written on. What is that? So the person, for example, if I am the public and I've given the loan to the company, so I should get some benefit. Anyone who has money should get benefit. Okay? So I have given loan to a company. So in return, the company gives me a paper saying that this is the mark value and this much amount you have given. Okay? Now, I'm going to earn in two different ways. The first one, the company will tell me that I'm going to give you an interest amount of this much on whatever is the mark value written in this particular question, that is your nominal interest rate. So my bond is marked at 1,000 rupees. My bond is marked at 1,000 rupees. And I'm going to get an interest of 10% for how many years? For 3 years. Because it is maturing after 3 years. For every year, I'm going to get 10%, 10%, and 10%. Agree? So every year, how much amount am I going to get? 100, 100, 100. Yes or no? But the first 100 I'll get after 1 year. So that value is not same as today's 100 rupees. The second 100 I'm going to get after 2 years. Again, which is not having the same worth as today's 100. And the third 100 I'm going to get at the end of the third year. Yes? Agree? So that is my first benefit, that the company is going to give me an interest on whatever is the marked value or the face value marked on my bond or my debenture. And the second way I'm going to earn is when my bond or my debenture expires or it matures. So if there was a period of 3 years after which the company was supposed to return me the money, so it is going to tell me that after 3 years I matured, this is maturing. So after 3 years again, they are going to give me my loan amount plus some extra amount as an interest. Agree? So I'm again going to get an interest. Now this is one time payment. The interest that I'm getting is yearly payment or half yearly payment. I'm going to get in equal interval of time. But after maturity also I get one payment, which is a one-time payment. So in this particular case, that maturity will occur after 3 years. So one payment is interest amount, which I'm going to get after every year. Annually it's written, right? So after every 1 year, I'm going to get a certain interest amount that will be calculated on rupees 100,000. Agree? At 10%. And one more I'm going to get, again it is calculated at 1,000. Why is it calculated at 1,000? Because it is written that it is going to mature at par, not on an extra amount, not at a premium. If it would have been saying that it is maturing at a premium of 20%, that means initially it was 1,000. When it is going to mature, it is going to increase by 20%. Agree? But here it is saying that is when it is going to mature, the bond is going to mature, it is going to mature at par. That means whatever was the initial face value, at maturing also we are considering the same value, 1,000 rupees. So whatever interest the company is going to pay me at the time of maturity, that is my return amount. Okay? That will be calculated only once at the end of the third year, which is my maturity time. So I'm going to earn from two sides. First, yearly annuity interest, and second is one-time payment at the end of the maturity. Clear? So when I'm getting the interest every year, that means annuity. But when I'm going to calculate my maturity interest, that is only one-time future value, present value question. So in this case, please understand. First, I'm going to get an interest here, the bond benefits. Two ways. First is your interest. Please understand first. And the second is after maturity. Yes? Now, interest is how much? In the question, nominal interest rate was given to us 10%. So that 10% will be calculated on the marked price, that is 1,000, which is how much? 100 rupees. So after year 1, I'm going to get 100 rupees. After year 2, I'm going to get 100 rupees. And after year 3, I'm going to get 100 rupees. But when I'm going to calculate my total investment, whether I should give the company this loan or not, what I'm going to calculate? The equivalent amount of that interest and maturity amount today. Because I'm going to give the company the loan when? Today. So I'm going to compare it when? At the amount that is equivalent for today's. So I'm getting 100 later on in the future. But I'm going to first calculate that 100's worth today is how much. And that maturity amount, that is I'm going to get after the period of 3 years, what is the equivalent amount of that today? If it is more than the loan amount, if they ask me this question, if they only ask me how much am I going to earn, I'm going to add the both. That is what I'm earning. But if they ask me whether or not I should buy this bond or I should give this amount of loan to the company or not, then I'm going to calculate that what is the loan amount for which the company is giving me this bond or debenture, and what is the total earning that I'm having by selling this, having this. If I'm getting a total interest plus maturity amount more than the loan amount, then I'm going to give the company the loan. But if it is less than the loan amount, why will I give it? I'm going to keep my money with myself. Agreed? Purpose. I'm as a person, as a public, I'm going to give a loan to the company, which in return is going to give me a paper, which is a bond or a debenture, where it is written that it is marked at rupees this much, which is a paper and a confirmation of my loan. So at that particular time, they are going to fix two rates. One is my interest rate, at which I'm going to get yearly, half yearly. There's mentioned. That is always calculated on the marked price, on the face value which is written on that paper. Clear? And that is yearly. Every year I'm going to get the same amount. And second is when they're going to return it to me. That means when the bond is about to mature. So that period is mentioned earlier, that it's going to mature after 3 years or 4 years. That means after maturity, I can take that paper to the company and tell me that return me my money with again an interest. Agreed? That is your rate of return. That is only given to you once when you are returning that paper and you are getting a loan. So if I add both my additional benefits, one benefit is the yearly interest and the other benefit is the maturity interest. If adding both of them up, that is my total interest. So if they ask you only total interest, I'm done. But if they ask me that supposing your total interest is 9,230, you have calculated, and you are giving a loan of 10,000 rupees. Should I do that? No. I'm giving them 10,000 in return. I'm only getting 9,200 something. Why will I give it? I'm at a loss. Understood? Clear? And now the maturity is straight away. There on this particular question, the maturity is again at par. That means whatever was the initial mark price, the same is written. At the time of maturity is not going to increase. So it's again 1,000. What is the rate fixed? 14%. So this 1,000 is after 3 years at the rate of 14%. I'm going to calculate its present value at the same rate of return, which is 14%. That is my maturity rate. And the second is at 1,000, I'm getting an interest of 10% every year. So 10% of 1,000 is 100 rupees. I'm every year getting 100, 100, 100. So that 100, when I find out again present value, I'll add those three and I'll add my maturity interest. That is my total interest earned. Yes, in this particular question here. Maturity, I'm going to selling it at par. So it's again 1,000. It's not increasing. Rate of return is 14%. But I cannot calculate after 3 years. I have to calculate it today because I'm comparing it with today's loan amount. So what will be my present value? Is it a question of annuity? No, it's a one-time payment. So normal future value, present value question. 1,000 divided by 1.14 to the power 3. 674.19. Point. Done. Now here, every year I'm getting an interest of 100. For the first year, if I go back, again, the that is calculated at 14%. The rate of interest is only applicable at one stage, calculating the interest amount. Then we will never use it. Here, 100 for 1 year, back tracing it. What will be the present value? 100 by 1.14. Why do we need this? Use your head. I'm writing wrong. This 100, 100, 100 is what? Annuity. Directly calculate the present value for 3 years. So what will be the present value? 100. 1 minus 1.14 to the power minus 3 upon 0.14. Right? 16 or 60. Total interest will be, add both of them up. 907 point. Let's see. Understood? They didn't even ask whether or not we should give it on rental. If they would have given me an amount, for example, say 1,000, then I should know. If they would have given me 800, I should worry. You calculate two dividends. 10% only gives you how much interest you will get each year. Rest everything that the company gives you is that calculated at the return. Everything. You have to calculate the total earnings from whatever you are buying the bond. How much you are going to earn if you are going to give a loan to the company and in return going to get a bond or a debenture. That is this question. So the company pays me in two ways. One is when I'm returning the bond at the time of maturity. That is one-time payment. That is present value, future value, basic question. Second is your present value and your annuity question, because every year they are going to give me an interest. That is the only thing that is calculated at the nominal interest rate. That is 10%. And it is calculated at which your bond is priced. It was priced at 1,000 rupees in the question. So 10% of 1,000 is 100 rupees. So every year they are going to pay me 100, 100, 100. That is annuity every year. So I'm going to calculate that annuity amount for today. I'm going to find my maturity amount as today. I'm going to add it up. That's my total interest. Thus, here, done. Same sum. लिखा नहीं ये कर लो. This annual dividend is what? Your nominal rate annually. And the yield rate is 1 time, 8%. ठीक है? Okay. Internet selection. First at maturity. Maturity at 1,000 itself because it is written at par. Yield rate is 8%. So 1.08 for a period of 10 years. First is this. Adding it up to the annual dividend. How much? 8.5% of 1,000, which is 85 rupees. 85. 1 minus 1.08 to the power minus 10 upon 0.08. So first is the annual interest dividend and the second is the maturity one. Add both of them up. First, 8.5% of 1,000. Every year you are getting an annual dividend at 8.5%. First is 570.3569 and the second one is 463.19. If you add 1033.5. B. Done. That 8.5 is only used once when you're calculating the interest amount, the annuity. Nowhere else. Rare. But कभी-कभी आता है. Whatever comes in your paper, do in that way. Do it fine. Because if you are searching for the question, you're going to waste a lot of time. But then from the beginning, whatever comes in your way, pick it up. Once or twice it wasn't. It was like the last attempt it was segregated, but before that it was mixed. It's on your usually 99% times it's segregated. Maths, then 20 LR, then 40 stats. That next concept is perpetuity. Very easy. Perpetuity is again annuity. Annuity that goes on forever. Everything. As long as you live. So if it is forever, then we can never talk about future value in a perpetuity. Right? So in perpetuity, there is only one concept, present value, backing it out again, back tracing it. So present value is R by I. R is your perpetuity, annuity that goes on forever. R is your perpetual amount. That is annuity. And if it is a growing perpetuity, suppose G is your growth rate. It will be written in the question that it is growing or yielding at this rate. In that case, it will be R upon I minus G. Very easy questions. Direct. Done? Done? Try. Done? Remember, it's per month, monthly. 12% is for the entire year. Monthly will become 1%. So what will be the value? 50,000 divided by 0.1. 1%. Only I, not 1 plus I. Annuity divided by I. 12% becomes 1%. 1% means 0.01. Sorry. Done? Answer B. Clear? Everyone? Done? I read the question. It's not normal. Okay, let's see. A stock pays annually an amount of rupees 10 from 6th year onwards. So annuity amount is rupees 10. Yes, but it is from the 6th year. What is the present value? Okay, let's talk about this one. From the 6th year, we are making payments of 10, 10, 10. And perpetuity. Perpetuity is forever. So in forever, whether you have more 5 years or less 5 years, how does it even matter? So first find out the present value of this perpetuity. That is starting from the 6th year. From the 6th year, you have a perpetuity starting. So if whether you have 5 years less or more, how does it even matter in forever? Forever is still infinity. So in infinity, you reduce by 2, 3 years, how does it matter? So find out for 10 rupees, what is the perpetuity amount at 20%. 20% is 0.2, that is 50. Is this part okay? Till here it's okay. Now let's read the next part. What is the present value of the perpetuity if the rate of return is 20? But this is not my actual present value. Why? Because this is the present value that I've got at the beginning of the 6th year. Yes, not in the initial year. So now the beginning of the 6th year is same as where my time ends at the 5th year. The amount at the beginning of the 6th year is same as the amount that I'm ending in the 5th year. Yes or no? So basically this 50 I've obtained after 5 years. How much have I got? 50. This is what? Future value now? Yes or no? And I'm going to backtrace it how many years? 5 years. So I get what value? Present value. Is this a case of annuity? No. The annuity started from the sixth installment. Before that, it's a normal investment. So I invested something in the first year, which I got a return of 50 rupees at the end of 5 years, from which I started with perpetuity. Clear? So now this 50 that I've got at the end of the 5 years, how much money did I start with initially at 20%? You tell me. 50 divided by 1.2 to the power 5. Back tracing it, 1 plus I to the power n, present value. Yes, no. In this case, it's normal future value, present value question, no annuity. Annuity started from the sixth year. Before that, it was a normal present value, future value question because it wasn't mentioned anywhere. It was only said that the perpetuity was starting from the sixth year. So from the sixth till later on, I found out the perpetuity amount. But that is at the beginning of the sixth year, that means at the end of the 5 years. But the initial 5 years are missing. No annuity was paid, so it is normal present value, future value, amount principal case. Clear? How much? So that will be A, 20.1. Yes, no. ठीक है? Everyone? Done?
Can you explain this again?
Come, entire?
Yes, ma'am.
In the question, it was written that the perpetuity was starting from the sixth year. So from the sixth year, the perpetuity annuity started of rupees 10 at 20% rate. So first for that, from the sixth year onwards, I found out the present value, which I got as 10 by 0.2, that is 50 R by I. But that is the amount that was at the beginning of the sixth year, that means at the end of the fifth year. But for the initial 5 years, there was no annuity made. That means for the first 5 years, this 20% was normally applicable as present value, future value, or compound interest case. So at the end of the 5 years, I should have 50 rupees at 20%. So how much did I invest initially? That was how much was my present value before 5 years. So normal future value formula, present value formula. Future value divided by 1 plus I upon n. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Basic question. Perpetuity. 50 lakhs. 50 lakh is what? Present value. We have to find perpetuity this time. 50 lakh is the present value. Perpetuity is missing. I is, it is monthly. So 9 upon 1200. Find out perpetuity. That perpetuity will be 50 lakhs into 9 by 1200. 50 lakhs into 9 by 1200. 37,500. Read the question very carefully. Done? Everyone done? पहले monthly, so 9 by 12, then decimal by 100. ठीक है? That is the word forever. Perpetuity. The rate, discount rate means the nominal rate, basic rate 7%, and it is growing at 5%. So this is growing perpetuity. Guys, if you don't mind concentrating, there's a door if you want to leave. This is the sum of growing perpetuity. The nominal rate is 7%, growing at the rate of 5%. So what will be my net rate? 2%. So what will be the perpetuity of rupees 5? Present value of the perpetuity amount of 500 at 2%. 500 divided by 2%, which is 25,000. 500 divided by 2%. Done. Read the question, then I'll explain. It's a common sense question also. If you try, it's a common question. Supposingly, I have an asset that is costing me rupees 1,000. Okay? In the first year, it's going to return me an amount of 200 something. Don't read this question. I'm saying something. I have a machinery that I have spent of rupees 1,000 when I purchased it. So this is the amount that have gone out of my pocket. So this is an outflow for me. It went out. Now this machinery, this asset is going to give me some return. So I'm assuming that I'm talking about 3 years. So in my first year, at 0 is only if the money goes out in the first year, because I'm buying it on making a cost or any other kind of a repairment on the asset. So that is outflow. In this case, 100 is my outflow. 0. Because in the time 0, I never get a return. Now the return starts from the first year. So in the first year, for example, I'm getting an inflow of 200 rupees. In the second year, I'm getting an inflow of 250 rupees. In the third year, I'm getting an inflow of 370 rupees. So what I need to evaluate is how much am I earning from it. So what is my net present value, or what is my net income? What is my income? Outflow minus inflow. Yes, the money goes out and the money comes in, the difference. Now, outflow is 100 fixed. Today's amount. How can inflow be in the later period? So what I have to find? PV, present value of each inflow. So in this particular case, for the first year, my inflow was rupees 60. So I'm going to backtrace it and find its present value. For the second year, my inflow is 40 rupees. Again, I'm going to backtrace it for a period of 4 years. Then the third year, my inflow is rupees 50. I'm going to backtrace it for 3 years. I'm going to add it all up. It should come out more than 100. Only then it makes sense. Because if it is less than 100, that means I'm spending more than I'm going to earn. Yes? Yes or no? So my outflow is 100. My total present value from the 3 inflows after I backtrace them for today should be more than 100. For example, it comes out to be 130. So my outflow was 100. My inflow is 130. So I'm having a net income or net present value of 30 rupees. Clear? That is what here the question is. Right. I'll tell you. Here is missing something. You tell me. So first outflow. What is outflow here? 100. Now let us talk about total inflow. For the first 60, only backtrace it by 1 year? Yes or no? That is 1.12. Then 40 divided by 40 will be backtraced to 2 years. See, if you notice, every sum that is a little deviated from the past, everything is present value. Because I'm comparing everything today. Whether the money goes out today, the money comes in today. So everything is present value. 1.122 times 50. 1.12 3 times. What is the total? Use n plus n plus. 121.048. Done? So what is my net present value? 21.048. But in thousands. So in thousands, that means how much? Multiplied by 1,000. 21048. These values were in thousand. That means 100,000, 60,000, 40,000, 50,000. They did not write the thousand. In the question, it is in thousands. Like in our scale, for 2 kilometer, we take 2 units. So that 2 represents 2 kilometers. So if I'm making 5, that means what? 5 kilometer. Done? Everyone? Clear? Sorry. The nominal growth rate is 17%, but that includes an inflation of 9%. So actually, what is the growth rate? 8%, yes or no? So that is what we have to predict. That if the price is P, see, it's just fancy words. Don't get fooled by those. My growth rate is 17 and it includes inflation of 9%. So actually, how much is the growth? 8%. Now, initially, the amount was given to be P at the present year. Then what will be the projected real GDP after 6 years? So after 6 years, this P will become how much? You calculate. 8%, right? So P into 1.08 to the power 6. Normal future value question. You're just getting fooled by so many heavy words. Which one? Understood the question? Everyone understood the question? I'll need a yes or no. Clear? Adalu? Now, CAGR, if you would have been in 12 applied maths, you would have known. CAGR, compound annual growth rate. So you'll be given a huge number of scenarios. Ignore everything. What you need is what my first value, what is my last value, and what is the growth rate. That's it. If I started with 100, then in the second year I got 120, in the third year I got 130, then I got 140, later on I got 180 after a period of 5 years. So 180 is my future value, 100 is my present value, what is my compound interest? That is what CAGR means. In between, whatever you get, ignore everything. You have a value that you are starting with, you have a value that you are ending with, just use those two and find out what is your rate of interest. That is CAGR. Understood what I just said? Here, so here, what is my first year value? 10,000. So that is my present value. Principal. What is my last value? See, what you started as an investment, ignore those. What was your first return? 10. Then what was your second value? 12. Then 16. Then 18. Then 21. So this 10 to 21 growth came in how many years? From 4 years. For the first year, you had 10,000. Then you increase it 1 year 12, increase 1 more year 16, increase 1 more year 18, and 1 more year 21. So that is a total of 4 years. How much you invested is not even my question. What is my growth rate? That means how did my return grew? So my first return was 10,000. My last return is 21,000. What is the growth rate from that? Understood what I'm trying to say? It doesn't matter what comes in. Clear? Everyone clear? So period of how many years? Started from the first year, ended at the 5th year. So how many installments? 4. So number of years is 4. We have to find rate. You can go for trial and error. 10,000 into 1 plus I to the power 4. Whichever gives you 21,000, that's your answer. Two zero nine nine nine. So 21,000. 20.38%. Guys, understood? These are concepts that are not actually bigger things. These are smaller things that you need to understand. Now, suddenly there will be a googly where you don't even need to use a formula. Common sense. So keep your mind open. It's not always about the formula. Can I move forward? Read. Read the question very carefully. There's a googly here. Very basic. Nothing high-fi. Think. Now, where is it? The cost of the vacuum cleaner is 3,900. I've already made a down payment of 1,700. So what is my loan amount? What is my loan amount? 2,200? Yes or no? Loan amount is 2,200. Yes? Yes or no? So I'm making 5 EMI. That means 5 monthly installments of how much rupees? 480. That means I'm returning how much? My amount is 480 in 5 installments. That is I'm returning 2,400 in return to the loan amount of 2,200. That means I'm paying an interest of how much? 200 rupees under simple interest. So my simple interest is 200 for the principal 2,200 at some rate for a period of 5 months. Monthly installment. So for it to be converted into year, I have to divide it by 12. What will be my rate? 22%. Understood the question? Here, it was said that my vacuum cleaner was costing at 3,900. I've already made a down payment of 1,700. That means my remaining amount is only 2,200, which becomes my loan amount. And in order to pay that loan, I'm paying 5 equal monthly installment of 480. That means in total, how much am I paying? 480 into 5, 2,400. So the loan amount was 2,200 and I am paying 2,400. That means I'm paying an interest of how much? 200 under SI. It's written. So if interest is 200, principal is 2,200, time is 5 months. So 5 by 12 year, what will be my rate? Understood? Clear? Any doubt? Next. So 4,000 at the end of each year. That means it's annuity. 4,000 at an interest of 5%. So 1 minus 1.0. See, this is definitely loan question. Minus 25 upon 0.05. This comes out to be 26,375.80. So this is my loan amount. And 56,375.80. Now this is what I am gonna. This is my loan amount. But in order to buy the house, I already made a down payment of 20,000. So my total cost of the house will be how much? The down payment plus the loan amount. So 20,000 plus this. So that is 76,375.80. Clear? Everyone clear at the back? बहुत लोगों का डाउट था ये. So many texts of clearing this or this is an additional paper question. Thank you. Okay, here. Johnson left rupees 1 lakh with the direction that it should be divided in such a way that the minor sons Tom, Dick, and Harry, aged 9, 12, and 5 years, should each receive equally after attaining the age of 25. So, right now, Tom's age is 9. When he reaches 25, that is after 16 years, he should get an amount. That same amount should be received by his other two brothers when they reach 25 years after a period of 13 and 10 years. Right? So right now, for example, present age. Right now, the present ages are 9 years, 12 years, and 15 years. They have to reach an age of how much? 25 years. So for how many years the interest is going to be calculated? For him, 16 years. For him, 13 years. And for him, 10 years. Yes. Now they all should get an equal amount after these. That means Tom should get, suppose, X rupees after 16 years. Dick should get 13 years and Harry should get again X after their respective ages of reaching 25. Yeah. Now, each one of them will get an interest of 3.5% and the total amount that they are getting should equal to how much? 1 lakh. Because that 1 lakh is getting distributed among all the 3 years. So the amount that X of rupees X that they are getting is in the future. But 1 lakh is when? Today. So today's value should add up to how much? 1 lakh, not the future value. What are they? After 25 years, all the three brothers are going to get an equal amount, XXX. But those three X are not going to give you a total amount of 1 lakh because that 1 lakh is today's investment. So those amount, when I back trace them, I should get how much? Total amount of 1 lakh. Yes. So that means if I take this back, how many years? 16 years at the rate of 3.5%. So x divided by 1.035 to the power 16. Then second one back tracing it to 13 years. Third one back tracing it to 10 years. And when I add these present values, I should get 1 lakh. You can take x common, calculate these first. How much are you getting? So n plus, find the total. No. 1.925. Now take it to 1 lakh. all the sum, all the three when added together. 1 divided by 1.035 16 times, then 13 times, and then 10 times. If you add all of them up, I think I am getting 1.9256. So X is 51947.2, which is nearer to B. No option. No, it's very far. None. None. कर जाके book खोलो. It's D. Guys, understood the question? Additional में. नहीं, हम ये पहली बार थी. This is my class question. This is the class question. We have done this sum in the class. 4 more sums. Try. Try this question if you don't mind. नहीं. Hmm. Option हो. So for retires at 60 years, receiving a pension of 14,000 4 year a year. But in half year, how much will it get? 7,200? Yes or no? In one installment, he is going to get an amount of 7,200. So 7,200. For the rest after it is like to be 13 years. So for number of years is 13. 13 years. So the installments will be double of it. Interest 4% payable half yearly. So it becomes 2%. What single sum is equivalent to his pension? When? Today, I'm going to get this 7,200 after every half year for a period of 13 years. So what I want to know is what will be the total equivalent sum of my pension when? Today, because future I'm already going to get. So what they want to know is when the pension that I'm going to get for a period of 13 years, half yearly an amount of 7,200, what will that accumulate as a whole today? Clear? So find out what is the present value of this. Half yearly, so the time period will increase. What's the answer? 144. Done. Company growth. CAGR normal. Initially started with 5%, 5 rupees, it became 22 rupees. Code for trial and error. Which rate when applied to 5 rupees for 10 years will make it 22? Basic question, present value, future value. Which one? A is giving you 22.000. So A. Basic question of present value, future value, just some fancy word. Starts with rupees 5, becomes 22. The company is growing. In 10 years, what will be the rate? That's it. Done. Identify the question. All of them are very easy. All the answers are done. I'm making an SIP with 1 lakh every year from today. Every year means annuity. From today means annuity due. For next 10 years at the rate of 10%. What is the future value? How direct can a question get? It is a question of future value, annuity due. Find out the value. One lakh. 1.1 to the power 10 minus 1 upon 0.1 into, because it's annuity due, one more factor, 1.1. This is 1753116.7. Nearest one is D. No option. The options are correct. Whatever is the nearest, mark that up. Yeah. Too much of a difference. Just the decimal differences, that's okay. One till one. More than that, none of these. Done? Everyone done? Try this. Why? Understand the question. For the first year, the loan amount was 4,000 calculated at 10%. Whatever the amount that you have, in that I'm already paying back you 1,500. Whatever is left, that will be carried forward as my new loan. Then in the second year, again 10% is applied. Whatever becomes my amount, I'm again going to pay back 1,500. Whatever remains will be carried forward for the third year. So no formula, basic into. So here, opening value, interest, return, repayment, closing value. First year, opening starting from 4,000, interest 10%, so 400. Yes, so that becomes 4,400. Returning how much? 1,500. Left 2,900. Second year, opening with 2,900. Interest 10%. What is 10%? 290. So 2,900 plus 290 is my amount, and I'm paying back 1,500. So I'm left with how much? 1690. Now for the third year, my loan amount becomes 1690. Again, a 10% interest is levied. That means 169 rupees. So my total amount is 1690 plus 169. But I'm paying you back 1500. So I'm left with 359 rupees, which will be carried forward in the fourth year. Clear? So I made the free payment of 1500 thrice. Now I'm left with only 359 as to be my loan amount pending. Clear? So it was not a common sense question, basic bank passbook question. Done? Everyone? Now we are going to go for the last question of this PPT. Please make sure that everyone is able to end up on a good note. Answer. Basic question, annuity. Present value we have to find. Paying rupees 200 at the end of each 3 months. So it's quarterly, and at the end means it's an ordinary annuity. So 200, 1 minus 5% quarterly will become, and for 10 years, quarterly will be 40 installments. How much? 6265.38. Got the answer? So that's the end of our this session.